everyone, and welcome to episode 32 of Halfway Through the Heat, the world's most influential and most prolific trans-Pacific wrestling podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Tom. With me, as always, in Tokyo is Joe. Joe, how are you?
I am good.
Good.
How are things in the cold Northeast?
Things are there. It's snowing right now, but it's going to turn to rain, so that's great. We have a lot of news on this week's installment of the show. We've got turmoil in the referee ranks at Ring of Honor. We've got Shinsuke Nakamura signing a contract. We've got a proposal, a heartwarming proposal. We've got news about the WWE Hall of Fame. We're going to talk about NXT Live. We're going to talk about Fastlane. We're going to talk about what we'll see at WrestleMania. But as always, we're going to talk about something positive about Raw. And there was a big, big development on Raw this week that I think we might as well just jump right into. Of course, I'm talking about the League of... No, I'm not. I'm talking about the return of Shane McMahon, Shane O'Mac, fondly remembered by many people from the Attitude Era as the son of Vince McMahon, who would take the most ridiculous bumps. They weren't even really bumps. They were more stunts. They were more like things you'd see in an action movie, like guys jumping off a building, that kind of thing. But anyway, he's been off television for 8 years. He had some kind of business in China he was involved in, and last night he was a surprise guest on Raw, emerging from the back to say that essentially, I guess, rerunning the invasion angle from 15 years ago, where he or a wrestler of his designation will wrestle a wrestler of Vince's designation for control of the show Raw, which is actually not how most businesses work, but it's how this business works. And so people were really, really excited. Twitter exploded. Wrestle Twitter exploded. People who are like sort of hardened, I see as kind of like hardened, cynical fans were falling all over themselves, talking about how great this was and how exciting WrestleMania is going to be. And they got even more excited when Vince picked Shane's opponent, and it was The Undertaker.
I am baffled by this. Nuts. I understand that, like, I guess, Shane McMahon is kind of a nostalgic name in the sense that, like, is known for doing some, like, crazy spots, I guess, but, like, was Shane McMahon ever, like, the greatest wrestler you could think of? Or, like, the kind of person who is, gonna be headlining WrestleMania? Or, I don't know. Like, what is up with this? Why are people so excited? That's what I want to know. If anybody has any explanation for the huge excitement over Shane McMahon, like, please let me know, because I just don't know. I don't know where it comes from.
I was caught completely off guard by how excited people were. Like, Shane McMahon comes out, and I wasn't expecting it, but I also wasn't like, holy cow, it's Shane McMahon. I just thought, oh, all right. If it had been CM Punk or something, or Hulk Hogan, I really would have been surprised, and I would have been like jumping out of my seat surprised. But with Shane McMahon, I thought, all right, what's this? And then when so it's gonna be him and Undertaker in a cell, Hell in a Cell, like, or as I call it, a real cage match, not one of those
Yeah, basically.
cage matches where the point is to escape the cage. It's like you're in a cage, you just beat each other to death.
I wish it was the big blue cage, though.
I wish it was the big blue cage too. I might be a little more excited. But when I saw it was like, first of all, it's Shane McMahon, all right, and then there's like this angle about taking control of Raw, all right. And by the way, people were actually acting like, oh, Raw would change. This would be great. This is like, folks, Vince is still going to be in charge of the company, no matter what the outcome of the storyline matching. He's not really giving up control of Raw. But like, I didn't understand why people were so excited. I'm in the same boat as you are. I remember Shane McMahon. I have fond memories of Shane McMahon, but like I also have kind of fond memories of Too Cool, and like my excitement level was basically the same as if Too Cool had come back. Like, why? Why? Who in 2016 was like, who I want to see wrestle one more match? Shane McMahon.
Only if Scotty 2 Hotty is in his corner.
Only if Scotty Duati's in his corner. Like, honestly, like, why of all the people from that era you could bring back, why would you bring back the guy who was never really a wrestler to begin with, and who hasn't, as far as anyone knows, worked a match in 10 years? Why would he come back? And he looked old. I mean, and he's like in his late 40s now. He's not the same guy who was like jumping off scaffolding in 1998. Um,
Yeah, it's not exactly the same thing.
and I just couldn't. I didn't want to be one of like because I hate when something happens and people are excited in wrestling, and there's always like two people on Twitter who are like, "You dumb marks, this is awful. WWE's terrible." So I didn't want to be like that, but I was saying, so what I did do is I retweeted someone who also was very excited, and it was Vince Russo, and I was like, come on, if Vince Russo thinks this is a good idea.
It's a bad idea. That's
But why do you think people were people are still to this? This. I thought maybe people would wake up today and think, "Oh God, remember we thought that was a good idea." But no, people are still really excited. Why do you think that is? Why are people so excited to see this?
because WWE hasn't made any new stars.
Yeah,
That's the answer. There's nobody new. So everybody is really excited when somebody like Shane McMahon comes back, which is bizarre. It's not like, you know, again, it's not like I have anything against Shane McMahon. I don't think he's bad.
no,
It's not like they brought back Coco Beware for the big surprise, but like it's the kind of thing where he's not like a huge name. I mean, he's
nope.
not like you said. It's not like Hulk Hogan came back. I mean, but don't get me wrong, that would be an awful match.
No, no, yeah, no. Hulk Hogan cannot come back for a match, but if he came back and was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna pick a wrestler, brother, and if my wrestler beats your wrestler, the Hulkster's in charge of Raw," that would be more interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it would be basically a repeat of a storyline they already did. But
Well, so is this though. So
yeah,
is Shane McMahon and Vince fighting over control of the company.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I would be more excited for Hulk Hogan doing that. Um, he'd come back and be like, "You guys fired me and tried to destroy my legacy," and he would come back. People would be really excited for that. And
Yeah, and what are the odds that Shane McMahon actually wrestles this match and doesn't like pick someone, aka John Cena, to wrestle in his stead?
um, I don't know. Seems like he would wrestle it just because that's what people want to see for some reason. Um, I don't know. Like, I honestly don't know what he would do though. It's not like he's gonna be like climbing on top of the cage and jumping off 60 times.
Right. See, that's the thing. What is? I just don't. I guess I mean nostalgia is pretty powerful. So I posted on the blog Tumblr of Anxiety, Tumblr of Anxiety, Closet of Anxiety to Tumblr.com. I posted a picture, a still of Shane McMahon at Raw, and I said, "Hey kids, remember the '90s?" Like kind of sarcastically, like this is what we have. And people like loved it, and people were like, "This is like gets me right in the childhood," and this is And so I guess that nostalgia is a powerful force. You and I were a little older during the Attitude Era, so like I don't think we have the same
Yeah,
memory.
we were like in our 20s.
Yeah, and so I mean, like I look back on the '80s much more fondly, like because I was a kid when that. So maybe if an '80s, maybe I'm trying to think about the equivalent, but I still don't understand why people were so excited and why people are excited about the idea of Shane McMahon, who has not wrestled in a long time, wrestling the Undertaker, who has proven time and time again he can no longer have a decent wrestling match.
I
If Brock Lesnar couldn't get a decent match out of the Undertaker, how is Shane McMahon going to do it?
He's nuts. It's just
He's
gonna be
not.
it's gonna be terrible. But people are gonna immediately be chanting, "You've still got it," right when that match starts.
Yeah. Oh my God, you're right. I didn't want to think about it.
It's gonna be a nightmare. And yeah, I don't know. that and I hate to say it because like how negative we are about it, but it was probably the best part of Raw.
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because it was different. It was at least something interesting and something that got you talking, and the rest of Raw was just man. When Ambrose came in with the ambulance, there's a whole subgenre of baby faces driving vehicles into the arena at Raw.
Mostly the subgenre involves Dean Ambrose because this is the second time in recent memory that he's done that.
I
Previously,
know.
it was a police van though.
That's right. He's also brought a hot dog cart from Coney Island in.
Yeah, see, that's a Dean Ambrose is well known for bringing vehicles back to Raw for some reason.
Yeah, other than the Shane McMahon stuff, which was at least legitimately interesting and got you thinking. How much of the well, we're going to talk about WrestleMania a little bit later, but how much of the Shane McMahon stuff do you think is them like in desperation about this upcoming WrestleMania? Like desperation to have something that gets people talking.
It's probably like 90% that.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there's, now in fairness, a lot of their top stars are hurt right now, but you hit the nail on the head. They're not good at creating new stars. And when it happens almost by accident. Like CM Punk and Daniel Bryan became stars almost in spite of the company's efforts, not because of the company's efforts. And I mean, since then, they've had chances and they've had people that connect with the crowd in a kind of an organic way, but then they just, like the Wyatts. The Wyatts could be much bigger stars than they are. The company just doesn't know what to do with them.
Yeah, I think it's evident by like their opening when like everybody gets out their cell phones. Like it's not
Yep.
like people would do that for someone they didn't want to get behind. The
No,
Wyatts could be huge. It's just that, and I mean, I really like the Wyatts. I think they're going to be
I
really
do too.
good. But the thing with the Wyatts is that like you put them in these positions where they're kind of set up to do okay, and then they always lose. Like they inexplicably lost at Fastlane. There's not even a
Yeah,
reason for them to have lost at Fastlane. They just did. Like why would they lose? That doesn't make any sense.
no, and that was like an afterthought match. Like the feud like developed the week before Fastlane. Basically, it was like it wasn't the blow off to some huge ongoing dispute. It wasn't like setting anything else up. It was just like this place filler. And the Wyatt's you should. We'll talk about Fastlane.
Yeah.
But so for Raw, that was the. I mean, that was the big thing. Shane McMahon's return. Was there anything else that stood out for you?
Not really. I mean, right when the Usos came out, I was like, yeah, this is gonna suck from now on.
Yeah, they were the Usos versus the Ascension. No, nothing says money falling from the sky like the Usos versus the Ascension, and I like the Usos
Yeah, you are the Usos supporter of this duo.
of this duo, but I'm not all that excited by the Usos at this point. As of February 2016, I can think of many tag teams I would like to see more than the Usos,
Yeah, I can think of basically all of them.
except the Ascension.
No, even the Ascension.
No, no, my God, they're the worst. And then they wrestled the Usos, and that just was not good.
Yeah, I know. They wrestled the Ascension. Ascension, it's not like the Ascension is way above the Usos for me, but they don't come out and slap their legs and yell shit. So
I hate that.
I guess they win there. But man, besides that though,
Not a
yeah,
spectacular
not
Raw.
a spectacular Raw.
I mean, like first hour was at least something different.
Yeah, it was
Like
something that was good. Not
I, I was legitimately surprised. I wasn't jumping up and down with excitement about Shane McMahon, but I was surprised. I certainly didn't see that coming.
yeah, I didn't see that coming. It was it was definitely a surprise, but not a surprise I'm super excited for.
No, no, not like a bad surprise, but also just one of those things that leaves you scratching your head. Like, why do you think this is the answer?
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be somebody listening who is really excited about this. Tell us why you're really excited.
Tell us why you're excited about Shane McMahon, and in particular, tell us why you're excited about Shane McMahon versus The Undertaker. Because to me, that like if Shane McMahon comes back and he's an on-camera guy, like a foil to Vince, okay, I can see that working. But Shane McMahon coming back to wrestle The Undertaker in a cage, ugh.
Yeah, that doesn't sound exciting at all.
I mean, no one wrestling The Undertaker sounds exciting to me at this point. And now we may be the world's leading Undertaker skeptics. I will grant you that, but it's not like he's been proving us wrong.
Yeah, it's not like he's been having like these 5-star matches all the time. He's
No,
he's
and
mostly
like
been kind of slowly going through his spots and then doing weird shit and looking like somebody's grandma.
That's right. Yeah. And the whole somebody on Twitter actually made this point. He and I disagreed on Shane McMahon, but I think I agreed with him on this point. People talk about WrestleMania's in Texas, so you have to do something with the Undertaker. I don't really know that the Undertaker is so identified with Texas in people's minds. Like I don't know that Texans think. I definitely Steve Austin is identified with
because
Texas.
it's part of his nickname.
It's part of his nickname.
But
But like the Undertaker,
yeah,
I think wrestling fans, like insidery fans, know he's from Texas, but I don't think the average like casual wrestling fan thinks of the Undertaker as a Texas guy.
yeah. If you had asked me before, like, where's the Undertaker from? Like before this WrestleMania, I would never have known. I would have guessed
Yeah,
like, Kentucky. Who knows?
I would guess somewhere in the Midwest. But yeah, like I mean, and good, he's from Texas, fine. But I don't think like to me, I don't think making him the high point of the show makes as much sense as some people seem to think it does, just because he's from Texas. Like I don't think that's widely known, and I don't think fans in Texas are going to be like, we want to see the Undertaker.
Well, let's be honest, Tom. The fans want to see the Undertaker. It's not. I mean, it's not. That most people are agreeing with us here. I think most people still want to see the Undertaker. I don't. It's baffling to me, but I think they do. So
I think they do too, and I don't understand that at all. Like after embarrassing match, I it's like the opposite of Roman Reigns to me, right? I know people just don't like Reigns, and they probably won't like Reigns, despite the fact that he has like good match after good match.
yeah, it's true. I mean, that's the thing with Roman Reigns is that like he actually does have good matches. It's just nobody likes him.
No, and the Undertaker just has like bad match after bad match, and people are like, the Dead Man does it again. Like I don't. This is like my feeling last night on Twitter is the same thing. Like I start to feel like a Martian. Like, am I the only one who's not getting it? Like, why isn't it connecting with me when it's obviously connecting with everyone else?
Your Martian sensibilities do not allow you to grok this.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's turn from Raw.
To,
Let's turn to news.
well, let's turn to Fastlane.
Oh, you're right. We should talk about Fastlane.
We got to get that out of the way. Out of the way, Fastlane.
Get it out of the way. Fastlane was great. Fastlane, uh, Fastlane was maybe the worst pay per view I've seen since the network started.
It was pretty bad, and even the matches that had potential to be good were not good.
Yep.
I I was so like um disappointed with the Jericho AJ Styles match.
Absolutely agreed.
And I watching it, I thought like, in theory that should have been like match of the night. But
Yep.
like when you in practice it was like it seemed like their timing was way off or something. Like AJ Styles would do something cool and like it would be like put off in this weird timing by Jericho, who is like on a different clock or something. And
Yeah.
it's just
I think
strange.
Jericho looked sloppy in that match. I don't know what it was, but yeah, he looked off, and AJ was doing. I mean, and the two of them have had two really good matches on Raw and SmackDown. Their SmackDown match was amazing.
Yeah, no,
So
those matches were. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it was easily the worst match out of the matches they've had.
yeah, and so they've had two good matches, and you think like, okay, well now it's the big show, it's pay per view. These guys can work together really well. Let's let her rip. And then it was it. I mean, it wasn't. I think in terms of like actual wrestling quality, it wasn't the worst match of the night, just because I think those guys are incapable of having the worst match of the night. But in terms of a letdown, it was the worst match of the night.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, it wasn't the worst match of the night because there were still cool parts of it, even though like, it wasn't overall a good match. But oh man, the it was the biggest letdown of the night. That's definitely true.
Yes. Yeah, like the expectations for the Divas Championship were much lower. So even though it was a worst match, like you got what you expected.
Yeah, so when that sucked, you were not surprised.
Right, exactly. Whereas this one, I was super excited about Styles versus Jericho, and I just kind of hope that now that this is sort of over with, they can put Styles with someone else. I really think Kevin Owens needs something fresh.
Kevin Owens versus AJ Styles would be great.
because Owens' match, same kind of. I mean, it was a better match. His match with Ziggler, but there was no juice. It was we've seen this match before, and the hometown crowd didn't even really care about Ziggler. It was just sort of it was perfunctory. It wasn't a bad match, but it was just nothing we haven't seen before. No reason to really get invested in it.
Yeah, and that was a good match. That was like probably the best match of the night, really. Um, but
Oh, I disagree. I think the main event was the best match of the night.
well, I wouldn't agree with that only because like the ending was so bad.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that. But Owen Ziggler. What else are we forgetting? Okay, so yeah, the thing that really like made this to me a worse event than a normally bad pay per view, and pay per views are usually good. The WWE usually does a good pay per view, but for me, the long weird segment toward the end,
Oh yeah, jeez.
that Edge and Christian, the New Day, the Social Outcast, the League of Nations, R Truth, and Gold, basically everyone they don't have anything for, plus the New Day. Well, there was wrestling. There was that like incredibly short, incredibly awful match with Curtis Axel and R Truth for no reason, and it was just this like terribly unfunny back and forth kind of attempt to capture some of the Attitude Era stuff.
It was like Edge and Christian came back to pretend like it was the late '90s and everyone was huffing glue. Like there's no other explanation as to why they would think like, yeah, people will find this funny.
No, no, I couldn't believe how bad it was. And I like most of the guys who are in that segment. I like the New Day a lot. I even like Edge and Christian, but I like the Social Outcasts. But like, you know, the, it just there was no point to it, and not everyone, but people, the speculation was this is when Enzo and Cass are going to be introduced, and it would have made sense. And instead, they set up this feud between the New Day and the League of Nations. They're both heel factions. Like it makes no sense, and no one cares. I mean, it was just I don't know what they were thinking, which is something I find myself saying probably every time I watch WWE programming these days. But to me, that made it just sort of like a C minus pay per view and took it all the way to an F. It was just so bad, and it went on forever.
Yeah, it went on way too long, and it was like confusing because not only was like okay, the New Day come out and they're heels, but then
Right.
like halfway through it, like the League of Nations come out and they're heels, and the New Day are making fun of them with Edge and Christian, like together. So is
Yeah.
that like a face turn for the New Day? Who knows? It's the kind of thing where like everybody was confused by that. People were asking me later, like, is this a New Day heel face turn? That's stupid. And I thought like, no, it's probably just this terrible skit to get over Edge and Christian's like show for the mentally handicapped or whatever.
I watched the first episode.
How was it? I didn't watch it.
It was all right. It was like a half hour. It would have been better if it was 10 minutes.
If it my image of it is that it was just like a half hour of poo jokes.
No, there was some of that. Yes, there was some of that, but it wasn't. It wasn't a half hour of that, and there was one really good point with a John Cena puppet. That was the good part.
Okay.
And they had there was another part too that I liked, where they got the actual Shockmaster, Fred Ottman, to come back, and they like had this whole training thing where he was gonna like overcome his fear of crashing through walls.
That's pretty funny, actually.
That was pretty funny. But like you could take the good parts and it would be like a 10 or 15 minute show, and then there was like 15 minutes of filler, which was not good.
That's
Um,
the I'm 100% behind a John Cena puppet and a Fred Ottman return as the Shockmaster.
yeah,
Didn't I say this like like sometime on the pay-per-view, not on the pay-per-view, on the podcast about their big surprise at WrestleMania should be the Shockmaster returns?
that would yes you did. Yes you did. That would be amazing. um, the other stuff on Fastlane, my takeaway. We talked about the Wyatt's thing. That made no sense, but I don't know. So it was a pay per view that had two women's matches, which is great because normally they don't do that.
Yeah.
And the first one, the tag match, it was okay. I mean, it was a good match. I would say that was a solid B of a match, but the crowd just didn't care. And here's the thing: the crowd was right not to care. None of the booking in the women's division makes sense. Like, why are Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch friends again? Why are they still having this stupid team thing? What they should have done is have Sasha and Becky wrestle each other because they're the two best wrestlers in the company.
Basically,
And
that's
instead,
that.
they had
Yeah,
Mario Van Peebles, who, by the way, was as good as she ever gets. Tamina was as good as she ever gets, and she was not good.
yeah. That's. Tamina was as good as she's ever going to get in that match, and it was terrible. So, like I think you've said this before. Like the booking is bizarre because it's like you've got the two best women's wrestlers in the company on the match wrestling together against like two of the worst.
Right. And Naomi isn't terrible. She's very athletic, and she had a couple of good spots in that match. But, in general, it doesn't make sense to have the two best wrestlers on the same side. And then the championship match was as bad as I've seen a women's match since this whole Divas Revolution thing.
It was so bad, like so bad, and like half of it looked like they just didn't know what they were doing, and then like by
Yes.
the end, it was just like, okay, let's just get this over with.
Yeah, and then like the finish was weird because it was, Flair kind of interfered but kind of didn't interfere, and then this I mean it was just the I mean that was a terrible match, and Brie Bella seems like a very nice person in real life, and I wish her happiness in her marriage, but she has to stop wrestling. Her retirement is some of the best news the Divas division could get right now.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that.
Because Charlotte peaked in the spring of 2015 and has not really been a top shelf performer since then. Charlotte is still capable of being carried to a good match by someone like Sasha Banks, but Brie cannot carry anyone to a good match.
That is true, and it was evident in this match because man, it was just like I don't even know what they were trying to do with some of the stuff. Like there was that whole part where like they were awkwardly trying to do a move and it was not working, and it was like
Yep.
I can't tell if they were trying to do that as part of the match or they were just fucking it up.
Right? No, that's the thing.
And like um it seemed like they wanted to be like, oh yeah, like she was trying to do it but just couldn't, but like
Right.
as part of the story. But like in all honesty, it just looked like she was fucking it up.
Yeah, and like that segment at the end where Charlotte is in a submission hold and it's so painful she's on the verge of tapping until Flair interferes and saves her, and then instantaneously, she puts on the figure eight. It's like I don't want to be one of those people who's like you have to sell injuries like it's 1972, but talk about exposing the business. Like, if we believe that in 1 second your leg is in so much pain that you're almost going to quit the match and lose your championship, and then literally seconds later you're putting on basically a figure four with a bridge, it's just it just defies credulity. You just see that and think this is just fake bullshit.
Yeah, it's not it wasn't a very good match, and I mean easily it was the worst match.
Yeah,
But man, it was a really low low point for the pay-per-view.
yeah. I thought it was going to be bad, and it was. I just didn't think it was going to be that bad.
Yeah, I'm like right in that same category. I thought like, oh, this is not going to be good, but I was honestly surprised by how bad it was.
And then there was the main event, which I loved until the end.
I didn't dislike it. I thought it was like a pretty good match actually, but I think that ending was so terrible. It was like
Reigns and Ambrose.
no, like the ending didn't even make sense because like Dean Ambrose at the end was like basically fine. Like he wasn't like beat to hell. Like at least he wasn't acting that way. He was out there. He did like 30 chair shots to people and then like um was doing fine and then turns around, eats a spear and loses. That doesn't make any
Right.
sense.
Yeah, I thought the match had a great build. I mean, Reigns and Ambrose. are two of the best wrestlers in the company. They work really well together, and their storyline is so believable that like these are guys who want to be the best, and they'll work together to neutralize Lesnar, but they're also competitive. And Lesnar was exactly what they need him to be right now, which is this like terrifying monster, right? Just suplex. Like he did this one belly to belly overhead suplex to Ambrose on the outside of the ring that looked terrifying. It looked like Reigns or Ambrose rather. It looked like Ambrose broke his neck. I mean, Lesnar is just like he's a magnetic presence in the ring, and so I loved it. I was having so much fun just watching him throw guys around, and Reigns and Ambrose try to like pull it together. And the ending, to have Reigns win clean, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, it doesn't because, think about any way that they could have done that. They could have had um, they could have had Dean Ambrose hitting it. He hit Lesnar with a chair like 10 times and he hit Reigns with the chair like 5 times. He could have they could have just had Brock Lesnar no sell it. Just had Brock
Right.
Lesnar get up and F5 him and then, the chair is flung away. Reigns hits Lesnar with the chair and knocks him out of the ring or something and pins Ambrose. He could have just done it that way. It would have been like less this kind of thing where, you know, the less confusing ending. Like I felt like the ending was like just out of nowhere.
Right. Yeah, it seemed really abrupt. And we all expected the Wyatts to come out and interfere to infuriate Brock. And so set up, and that didn't happen. And the ending just felt like it was rushed, even though clearly that's what they were planning for. And, the crowd hated it. The crowd
The crowd
booed.
really hated it. It was
Um,
like it was like the crowd went wild with booze. It was terrible. And I don't know why they would expect anything less than that.
no, and we have to talk about that because like I no longer understand what they're doing with Roman Reigns. And I was listening to Meltzer this week about it, and like Meltzer's kind of at a loss to explain it. He doesn't have any good ideas either. The the we haven't talked about the political hit theory, but it's like it every single event like this gives it more credibility, even though it's crazy. And the political hit theory is basically that all of this stuff is a really convoluted way to screw over Roman Reigns, and that they know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly they're burying his chances of being a main event babyface. I don't know what I don't know what the motivation is, but that this is like they know that the crowd hates Reigns, and they're doing this to make the crowd hate Reigns more because for some reason they want to, somebody's mad at Roman Reigns, and this is like the new way of burying someone, the opposite.
The opposite
And,
Barry.
yeah, the opposite Barry. And like I don't believe it, but it's credible to me just because nothing else makes sense. What they're doing with Reigns doesn't make sense. The crowd does not want. I like Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns has good wrestling matches, but I know it's just not going to happen for him. Like he's just not going to be the fan favorite they want him to be. Now they're setting up a thing where at WrestleMania, the evil heel son-in-law character, villainous cheat bastard, is going to be cheered over the top babyface. Like, what are they doing?
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, on Raw, like they're like he's like bashing his head on the table or the announce table, and like the crowd is chanting one more time. Like
Yeah,
it's not exactly a situation that they want to be in.
yeah, that's a good point. At the end of Raw, like, if that doesn't tell you something is wrong, this is supposed to build up. This is a classic thing to build up Reigns as a sympathetic babyface. This evil shit heel is taking advantage of him, and the crowd's supposed to take the side of the victimized fan favorite, and just the opposite. People want to see him get beat up even more. The only thing that would make sense is a Roman Reigns heel turn because he's a heel anyway. Like he gets booed, people hate him. That makes him a heel. The only thing that makes sense is making it official. But like, how do you do that if his WrestleMania opponent is Triple H?
Yeah, you can't. There's not really a way because without making Triple H a face, which also wouldn't make any sense because
Right.
of like the past 2 years of Triple H on TV.
I I think they could make a lot of money and have a lot of success if they turned Roman Reigns heel and then he feuded with Ambrose. Those guys have great chemistry. They know each other really well. The crowd loves Ambrose. And then Reigns cheats his way to beating Ambrose just in time for Seth Rollins to return as a face. Then him and Reigns have a great like. I know it's fantasy booking and it's easier said than done, but to me like that's the obvious choice. You have a guy the crowd hates. You have a guy the crowd likes. Have them fight.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like really basic math, but apparently not for
No,
WWE.
and I realize this makes me sound like Jim Cornette when I'm saying it, but it's true. Like that's elementary wrestling storytelling. If you have a good thing in a guy the crowd hates, right? You need that. You need someone that people want to see get his ass kicked. That's how you make money. Okay, you've got that. But for some reason, if you're Vince, you're insistent. No, no, this is the good guy. This is the guy people are going to cheer for. When?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a really bad kind of situation altogether. They really have kind of screwed Reigns.
They really have, and I think Cena might have thrown off their radar. But Cena gets as many cheers as he gets boos. Half the crowd, the Cena dynamic is that half the crowd loves him and half the crowd hates him. That is not the Roman Reigns dynamic. The Roman Reigns dynamic is the crowd hates him.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Like, Cena has like half the crowd hating him, but like, again, he does have half the crowd that likes him. But Reigns, man, just everybody hates him, and that wasn't even always a thing. Like they just made
No,
it worse. Like they had the crowd cheering for him briefly,
they
and
did.
and then like they just kind of were like, nah, we're just gonna make you guys boo again.
Yeah, it's almost like they had to try harder. Once that they got the crowd on Reigns' side, it's like, okay, now how do we turn the crowd against Reigns again? All right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna screw up the Royal Rumble. And it's a shame because I like Reigns a lot, and I think he could be tremendous as a heel, and and then eventually a face or whatever. He could be like a Batista type guy where he's this big dude. He wrestles really well. I think he's a better wrestler than Batista. He looks great, but this idea that oh no, he's going to be the new Cena, he's going to be the new Hulk Hogan, he's going to be the new, it's just not happening, and it's not going to happen at this point. No amount of yelling at people they should cheer for Roman Reigns is going to make them cheer. In fact, the opposite is going to be the true.
Yep. It's definitely true in the sense that the opposite is absolutely happened.
Yeah, I mean, like, what else can you say? So that was a shame to see at Fastlane. And so I mean that those are the matches we know at WrestleMania, right? We've got Reigns versus Triple H, which could be a disaster. We've got Ambrose versus Lesnar, which could be interesting. Um, Ambrose is a crazy guy who can work really well with anybody. So that should be fun. And then we've got a Hell in a Cell match with a 50-year-old man against a 46-year-old non wrestler.
Yeah.
That's your WrestleMania card so far, folks.
I'm excited for WrestleMania.
I mean, we've said that we both think the NXT takeover the night before WrestleMania will probably be a better show, but now it's like it's not even close. Like now the NXT, like the main event of NXT takeover could be Alex Riley and Baron Corbin. It would still be a better show.
Yeah, the NXT takeover is going to blow away WrestleMania in terms of show quality. Like, man, just that the Asuka Bailey match is going to be off the
Yeah,
charts.
and Nakamura's gonna be like his debut. I think is supposed to be that night. Like it's gonna be crazy. But so that's Fastlane. We should talk about the news.
Oh yeah, we got news.
We got news. You pointed this out because you've been to some DDT shows, DDT Pro shows.
Yes.
Tell us about Kota Ibushi. What's
Oh
happening?
yeah. So Kota Ibushi, who is currently injured. I mean, he's not even wrestling, but like he's apparently left both his contracts for DDT and New Japan to start his own wrestling promotion. Um, that's the rumor anyway. But that does make him a free agent. so he can still wrestle for DDT in New Japan if he wants to. And that's not like unheard of. Like a lot of people recently have become free agents, especially All Japan's guys, because apparently there were some pay issues over there. So a bunch of like the big names from All Japan went freelance. Like Akebono is one of the biggest names, I think. But so those guys, so Kota Ibushi going freelance is like, pretty big news. But it could also mean that he shows up in the WWE's Cruiserweight World Title Champion tournament thing. That would be awesome.
The Super Triple H Cup.
The Super Triple H Cup, whatever it is, who knows? There are rumors that like actually Ibushi is angry at people for leaving New Japan to go to WWE and whatever, but like, who cares? That doesn't mean anything. Even if he is, it's not like being in that cup actually is joining the WWE. It's not
No.
because none of the Triple H already said like a lot of people in there are going to be people who aren't signed to WWE.
Yeah.
And I think, if you had to pick someone who is like a top cruiserweight in the world, like Kota Ibushi is that guy.
That would be really exciting. I'm very excited to see the Super Triple H Cup. But if they get big names like that, it's going to feel like an event. It's not just going to feel like a weird network programming thing. It's going to feel like this is something people will talk about. This will be like a reference point for wrestling fans for years to come. I think they can do that, but they really do have to like make sure they get guys like Ibushi, whoever they can get. I know there's contract issues that are going to prevent some of the best cruiserweights from participating, but
Yeah, I mean, like, what about all? I mean, I think about like, what about all those guys who are in Lucha Underground? Can they not? They
right.
not come?
Yeah, I don't think they're able to. I think their contract prevents it.
Yeah, it prevents them from being on other companies' TV. But does this count as TV? It's like a streaming thing.
Yeah, my hunch is it would, but I don't know that for sure. My hunch
It could
is that
also mean that like remember there was all those like news stories about Triple H meeting with people at Lucha Underground. Could have been about this. Like we want to borrow these guys, can we?
that's true.
Because like I'd like to see Son of Havoc in there. I'd like to see like Angelico,
Ricochet.
Ricochet. I mean Ricochet must have some kind of thing because like he's been on New Japan a bunch. Matt Sydal also.
That's
But
true.
like Son of Havoc and Matt Sydal were both in WWE.
I know. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, and the Darewolf there also. Like WWE's had a lot of good cruiserweights in recent years. They just don't know what to do with them. Um, but I think Ibushi is a name that not a lot of people in the U.S. know, but they would be super excited to see him once they get a load of him.
Yeah,
And you're right. This is not the same thing as getting a contract with the WWE. I think it's possible this would be like a high profile tryout for some people. Like if you're a free agent and you do really well and they're really impressed by you, I could see them saying, "Hey, would you like to come to Next or whatever?" But I don't know. I let the speculation begin. I think people are going to be talking about this for the next couple months. Who's going to be in? Who's going to make the cut? And Ibushi becoming a free agent. It seems like the perfect timing, at least for him.
I'd like to see. There's a lot of guys I'd like to see, but I'm like really excited to see who they actually get.
Yeah, I just don't want it to be a thing where we build it up and then it's like the Miz.
I think the Miz probably doesn't fit the weight requirement.
No, I think he's probably too big, which is a weird thing to say. But you know what I mean. I don't want it to be one of those things where it's like three people you're excited about, and then the rest of the field is people you think like, oh yeah,
Oh yeah, that guy's a wrestler.
that's right, yeah. Or it's like a bunch of like NXT prospects who haven't been on the show yet, something like that.
Yeah, that would be bad.
But again, the intention, at least as far as we know, Triple H has said, he says it's mostly going to be people who aren't under contract at WWE. So I'm going to take him at his word. William Regal is certainly a good talent scout. Kota Ibushi versus Zack Sabre Jr. on WWE TV. Let's get it.
I would be super excited for that.
I would too. That would be phenomenal. Um, oh, speaking of Japanese stars and WWE, while Fastlane was stinking up streaming services all over the world. Shinsuke Nakamura officially signed his contract and is now in NXT. Um, the question is, what do they do with him?
It's a good question. Uh, I assume he's going to come out and just be Shinsuke Nakamura. He's going to come out like a ninja Michael Jackson and kick people's heads off. I guess that's basically what he does.
Yeah, I mean, do you see him like staying in NXT for a while, going up to the main? Like, I don't know exactly. I can see why they want to try him out on NXT and see how he does. And then, I mean, it's just like he's so distinctive a personality, and there's so much upside to him. It's almost like you can't not make him a star. But WWE has proven time and again they can take really talented people and fuck it up.
That's true. But I think Nakamura is he's kind of hard to fuck up.
I agree.
Uh, I mean, he's like just by himself, he's just so charismatic that like he's hard to fuck up unless you just like job him out to everybody.
Right. And I mean, they've done great with Asuka so far. I've been very impressed by how they've handled her debut. And, as long as they stick to that formula, like, introduce the person to your U.S. fans, talk them up, and then just step back and let them do what they do so well. And then, guess what? They'll be popular.
Yeah. That's really all they need to do with Nakamura. Just I don't know, just let him do his thing. Just let him go out there and do what he does. I mean, we've seen him live. I mean, we saw him in Ring of Honor.
Yep.
He was, he was way over. He was on the heel team and he was way over.
I would like to see him feud with Finn Balor.
Yeah, I mean that would be great. Those would be great matches.
It makes perfect sense. I mean, two guys from New Japan, but also like their styles are complementary, and they both have these kind of like crazy eccentric personalities that get across without having to spend much time on the microphone. And I think people would love those matches.
Yeah, people would.
Because right now, I think what's held Finn Balor back somewhat is he hasn't had like a defining opponent the way Sami Zayn and Neville were like kind of defining opponents for each other in NXT. Um, it's kind of been Finn Balor versus a bunch of guys who are good but not quite as good as they could be. I think the intention was that Hideo Itami was going to be his big rival. Obviously, because of injury, that hasn't happened yet. So this could be a chance to really sort of establish not only Nakamura but sort of make Finn Balor as like the top guy in NXT history until now.
That would be good. I'd be excited for that.
It just makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I would be excited to see more of like them doing something with Finn Balor because like it seems like since he's been the NXT champion, I've cared less and less about him.
Yeah,
He
absolutely.
hasn't done anything. He hasn't been like. I mean, can you remember what his last match was? Like,
I think was it Apollo Crews maybe?
maybe, yeah, Apollo Crews. But like, was that like a big feud? Is that something memorable?
No, that was one of those shake hands, respect, blah 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 things.
Yeah, a very Triple H ending.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So Nakamura would be great. I mean, Nakamura would be. I do want to say though that I really hope for like an initial like curtain jerker kind of get to know you match. I want Nakamura to come out and destroy Alex Riley, just for the tweets.
That would be great.
Just for the tweets.
Or-
Because Riley has said like he's like, oh, to different guys, not to Nakamura, but like he's tweeted things like, oh, guess what? You were big in Japan. I'm gonna knock your head back to Japan, kind of thing. And, like, he's got this big chip on his shoulder about people who come to the WWE from outside the WWE. So I would just love to see, him get decapitated by Nakamura.
That would be great.
I'd be happy. So our news segment is often just like a catalog of like injuries and lawsuits and arrests. So it's nice when there's good news. There was good news this week. Joey Ryan, who we've talked about here, we've both met him actually. Weirdly, he once again the master of going viral for indie wrestlers. Joey Ryan proposed to his girlfriend Laura James, who is a wrestler and who just had a tryout at NXT, while they were wrestling. And apparently it was a surprise. She didn't expect it. Some people say wrestling is predetermined. Folks, not always. It was a shoot wedding proposal, apparently. And she accepted, and then he went on to win the match. So I like that. That's very classy. And I want to point out a part of a long and storied tradition. Gorgeous George, before he was Gorgeous George, when he was just George Wagner, kind of a run-of-the-mill babyface, actually got married in a wrestling ring in Oregon. It was a big local story at the time. So good for Joey Ryan. Mazel tov, you two. Also, Joey Ryan's partner, Candice LeRae, of course, got engaged earlier this year. I wonder if it'll be like a double, like a four corners match wedding or something.
That'd be awesome.
I could see that. So that's neat. Joey Ryan, I feel like I want him to get like some kind of gig because he's getting up there. He's like our age. Can't wrestle forever. I want him to get some kind of gig that takes advantage of his sort of like personality and his comedy skills and things like that. And he's definitely a guy who knows how to leverage good press.
That's true. He's good at being a viral wrestler.
He really is good at being a viral wrestler. And this, coming on the heels of his, his now famous dick move. This got like, ESPN, New York Daily News, that like when Joey Ryan does something, it's now newsworthy, which is very funny to me.
That's actually pretty weird. Strange times we live in.
So that good news. So here's the bad news. Here's the news. This is more of our normal news segment, in that it's not happy news. Kevin Keenan was a referee for the WWE, and then he was a referee for Ring of Honor. He's no longer a referee for Ring of Honor because during the Nashville, during their stop in Nashville recently, after the show, Keenan went down to where some of the crew was drinking on Lower Broadway, which I've been to in Nashville. It's kind of I'm going to go ahead and say it. It's the area with the honky tonks. I'll just go ahead and say honky tonk.
You're really pushing my patience by saying honky tonk.
So he went down. I guess he had consumed a few adult beverages by this point, and they ran into some Ring of Honor people, including Mandy Leone, who is a backstage interviewer and also a wrestler. He slapped her on the ass, and so Ring of Honor is owned by Sinclair Broadcasting, which is a large publicly traded company. And one thing you can't do when you work for a large publicly traded company is sexually harass your coworkers, which is what this was. So Kevin Keenan, the former WWE and now former Ring of Honor wrestler, I guess kind of realized that night he'd made a mistake, and the next day he talked to Delirious, who is the booker for Ring of Honor, and by the way, all of this is coming from Kevin Keenan's own admission, so this is not an alleged ass slap. This is an admitted ass slap. Then basically Delirious said you're fired, and that was it for Kevin Keenan. And then he posted this kind of scorched earth account of the whole thing, where if I were his PR person or lawyer or something, I would say don't do that, because he admits to this sort of bad behavior, but says it wasn't as bad as Delirious having a romantic relationship with Mandy Leone. Which is hanging other people's laundry out in public, and is basically guaranteed that you're not going to be getting any more televised wrestling referee gigs.
Yeah, I guess that's probably true. Probably we won't be seeing him anytime soon.
No, and his like angry, which is linked to on the blog, by the way, his angry kind of account of all this. He's like, I've had a good reputation in this business for 15 years, and I thought, well, kiss that goodbye.
And now you don't, so good job there.
Because whereas in the world of publicly traded corporations, you cannot sexually harass your coworkers. In the world of wrestling, even though it's not quite what it was in the kayfabe days, they don't like it when you hang other people's laundry out in public. But yeah, so that's that. Don't slap your coworkers on the butt. Unless you've agreed in advance, I guess, maybe in writing. I don't know. Just don't do it.
Something you have to. If it's not in the ring, don't do it.
Well, right. That's a good point. Um, yeah. Okay. So that's it for news. Oh, last Saturday, I went to Albany, New York, capital of New York State, with my friends Mark and Mike, and we went to see NXT live.
So
Um,
I'm excited to hear about the NXT Live Experience. This is your second NXT Live, right?
this is my second NXT live experience. That's right. The first one was also in Albany last May, and it was kind of a. I mean, it was a big time highlight because it was right before Kevin, like literally like a week before Kevin Owens showed up on Raw, and Sasha Banks and Charlotte, and it was a bunch of people who have since gone on to bigger and better things. I was going to add Tyler Breeze to that group. Sadly, he has not gone on to bigger and better things, but he was really good.
Yeah, he's gone on to bigger things, Tom.
He's gone into bigger things.
Just not
That's
better.
true. So, also, I was really excited because I didn't know who was going to be on the card. They kind of don't tell you until like the last minute who's on the card, and I really wanted to see Asuka. And in fact, Asuka was in the first match, which was neat because the crowd for the first match is really excited. Because people are waiting, and then suddenly the show is starting, and people are pumped. They're not tired; they're ready to cheer. And I have to say, I was impressed. Asuka was super popular with the crowd. Now, an NXT crowd, and I guess this venue holds about 3,000 people, and it was close to a sellout. An NXT crowd is a little more clued in, I guess, than a normal WWE crowd. So it's not a surprise that they knew who Asuka was, but like they were nuts. Like there was the Asuka's gonna kill you chant. Like they were super, like all of her offense they cheered. Um, it helped that she was wrestling Eva Marie, and let me tell you. So one of the things I was really looking forward to about this is seeing NXT in an audience that is not Full Sail, right? Because the only NXT I see on television is all at Full Sail, and that's a weird crowd full of weirdos, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's people who cheer the Ascension. So like I don't know who's popular in real life. I feel like everyone's popular to the Full Sail people. And let me tell you, Eva Marie, people hate Eva Marie. Like, I mean, it was not like booing, like the loudest boos I have heard in a long time. All the way from where she came out in the ramp to when she got in the ring and like was blowing kisses of the crowd. Just like people hate her. They like a lot of "you can't wrestle" chants, which I think is kind of shitty. But there was when Asuka like knocked Eva Marie off the apron onto the floor, and the ref was like counting to 10, and the crowd was chanting "Don't get up."
Wow.
Like people hate her, which actually is good, right? This is someone the crowd hates, and now you've got someone the crowd likes in Asuka, and you're gonna have the two of them fight. That's what wrestling is, and it was a really fun match because Asuka obviously won. And I will say this: Eva Marie looked better than I've seen her. She did not look good, but she looked better than I've seen her. Like she didn't. There weren't any obvious horrible timing errors or screw ups the way she's done on TV. And I think it helps working with Asuka, who can apparently carry anyone to a decent match.
Even Eva
Um,
Marie.
even Eva Marie. Like I saw a legitimately good match between Asuka and Cameron on the NXT show. It wasn't like a decent match; it was a good match. And so it was fun to see Asuka live. It was fun to see the crowd react. Um, the interesting thing was, I feel like some of these people are spinning their wheels at this point. Like Sami Zayn, Bayley, Finn Balor, and Enzo and Cass. They've all been around for a while now in NXT, and they're super popular. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the crowd loves all of like people love Bayley to a degree that I find bizarre.
Yeah. It's kind of bizarre.
I think she's a good wrestler, but like I don't get her gimmick, and she just creeps me out a little bit. She strikes me as like somebody who was was maybe in a cult as a child, and like the way she gets over those horrible memories is by being like way too cheerful. So it's like the unsinkable Kimmy Schmidt show where it's just like she's constantly like repressing all these thoughts of being like in the Reverend's bunker, like talking about rainbows and stuff. That's Bailey to me. Um,
I can see it.
but they're all super popular, and the question is like, so where do they go? They've kind of reached the limits of what they can do in NXT, and I mean the logical thing is to go up to the main roster, but is there room for them in the main roster at this point? I don't really know.
That's why brand split, Tom.
Yeah, that would make sense. That would make sense. I hate to say this, but Apollo Crews, who wrestled Rage Cage Riley, I think Apollo Crews is the new Solomon Crow. Like he's good. They clearly like him, but they don't have anything for him to do. And the crowd was polite, but you don't want polite at a wrestling show.
Yeah, that he just has no character. It's
He has no
basically it.
character.
It's all your problem with Apollo Crews is that he doesn't have any character. He's good. He's a good wrestler.
He's a good
He can
wrestler.
do lots of crazy stuff too. But you know, it's, even if you're a good wrestler, it's not going to get you over if you have like no charisma.
No, there's got to be something extra that it factor, and he doesn't seem to have it. Someone who does have it is Alexa Bliss. She wrestled Bailey at this thing, and like when Alexa Bliss was like a babyface, I was just like, oh, whatever, terrible. But being a heel has really brought out a good side of her, and also she's improved by it helps that she was like a gymnast, like so she's already a good athlete. But she's improved so much in the ring. She had a Canadian destroyer on Bailey that was looked great,
Awesome.
and that's not an easy move to pull off. Um, and the crowd like love hates her. It's not like Eva Marie where like people hated her. It was more like, hey, here's this hot villainess, kind of like I know I'm booing you, but like in kind of an aroused way. So it was like the crowd was they were into her, and I think it's just a matter of time that before she's on the main roster. And Austin Aries was there. He hasn't been on the TV show yet or the streaming show yet, so it was nice to see him. And the crowd went crazy for him. People were really excited to see him, as I was as well.
Austin Aries. He's like
Austin Aries.
uh, CM Punk light.
Yeah. CM Punk without a lot of the attitude problems, man. Uh, but it was a good show overall. I think the show in May was maybe a little better, but I had a lot of fun. Um, I think my favorite match was Asuka Eva Marie. The best match was probably the main event, which was Austin Aries and Finn Balor tagging against Samoa Joe and Baron Corbin, who, by the way, has also improved. He wrestled in Albany last May when we were there, and he wrestled Tommy Dreamer, and he was really green. And now he looked good. He was holding his own with Samoa Joe, Austin Aries, and Finn Balor, like three of the best wrestlers of the last 15 years. So it was a good show. I have high hopes for these people, but you're right. Like brand split makes sense, especially when you think about the people who they have bubbling under who haven't made their debuts yet: Biff Busick, Rich Swann, Shinsuke Nakamura, Athena, and Hideo Itami coming back from his injury. Like suddenly the NXT roster is going to get very crowded, and they're going to have to think of something to do with all these talented people.
I I mean I'd like to. I know people hate the brand split, but it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I can see it working. Like I think people hated it because they did it so wrong. Um, but yeah, to me, like the company's too big right now, and they kind of have a brand split now. NXT, it doesn't have to be SmackDown Raw. Just make NXT it's sort of a touring brand on its own because it's popular. People like it, and it's already developing a name for itself. And you started to have these big shows, like the Brooklyn was the Barclays Center,
Yeah, I
and
mean, it sold out the Barclays Center. It sold out the same venue as the pay per view.
yeah, and I forget where they are in Texas, but it's not a small room, like it's not a 3,000 seat armory like I saw them in Albany. And I think you get them on TV, maybe turn SmackDown into the NXT over the air show. Um, you get them on TV, and people are going to be very excited to see this product as long as they as long as they don't let Vince run it, as long as they let it keep NXT the way it is, and then just get it in front of a larger audience, and I think they'll do really well.
That would be good. Be good if that actually happens.
But who knows?
Yeah, you
Um,
never know with WWE, who's been unsuccessfully trying to push Roman Reigns for 2 years.
Poor Roman. Well, that I think does it for our planned segments. Do you have anything coming up that you're excited about? We've got 5 whole weeks until WrestleMania.
Yeah, 5 weeks until WrestleMania. I'm not really excited for anything.
You're not pointing at the WrestleMania sign in your apartment. constantly?
Well, I mean, I am, but with a thumbs down.
I'd like to have something like that in my life, like something to symbolize my ambitions, like in sign form that I could just point to when I wanted to let people know what I was planning to do.
Um, you should just have a big thumbs down foam hand.
I was thinking about it, like what would my sign say, and in terms of like my ambitions, I'm afraid like I would just have a big sign that in all caps just said lunch.
That's it.
Around 11:45 every day, just point to the sign, stand up at my desk and point to the sign that says lunch. He's got the road to lunch begins here. Um, I've got so this weekend there's a couple of shows, two Beyond Wrestling shows back to back.
And you're going to both. You're going to be standing all day.
Maybe going to both. Definitely going to the first one. I'll finally get a chance to see Candice LeRae wrestle, wrestling Ryan Gallione. Um, and then maybe definitely part of the second one, but I don't know if like I don't know. That's a long day. Two full wrestling shows in one day where there's no seating.
That's pretty brutal.
But I do have tickets to both, so the wrestlers get my money either way. Also,
They've already got your money, Tom.
I've already got my money. Yeah, well, they don't even need me there. Um, uh, the promoter of Beyond Wrestling announced that he is booking a show in Providence in April that's going to be an all-women show. It's not a new promotion necessarily, but this show is going to be all women wrestlers. And I mean, it's practically it's like someone's been reading my dream book kind of thing, you know?
It's who is there? Anybody spectacular? Everybody spectacular?
The names they've announced so far are Kimberly and Deanna Parazzo, both of whom are good. I asked him on Twitter if Hanaya the Howling Huntress would be there, and he said no, she wasn't available, but he did ask her. So that's a bummer, but at least he knows who's good. But like his Beyond shows are so good, and he actually used to book or used to own, I think, Women's Superstars Uncensored, so he knows his way around this world, and um, I have high hopes that this will be a good show. It's April 10th, Sunday, April 10th in Providence, Rhode Island, at Fett Music Hall, which is where Beyond shows were until they moved to this new venue.
Weird. They went back to the old venue.
They went back to the old venue for this, and I'm not sure why. Also, this is going to be like seated. It's going to be a little more traditional format than Beyond shows.
You can actually sit down.
Yes, I'll be able to sit down and watch the wrestling, which is pretty exciting. Maybe I won't want to though. Maybe the wrestling will have me on my feet through the whole show.
And you'll be that guy standing up in front of everybody who's trying to sit down.
Like this fucking guy. No, but I'm excited. I like women's wrestling. I think that Drew Cordero is one of the best wrestling minds in the indie scene right now, and so this is like the best of both worlds for me.
It's going to be good for you. I can go see women's wrestling basically anytime I want to.
You can. I'm very jealous of that. It's difficult for me to see women's wrestling.
There's all types of women's wrestling in Tokyo.
There's all types of wrestling, period, in Tokyo.
It's true. There's a ton of wrestling all the time.
You have any plans to see wrestling coming up?
Nothing in particular. I was thinking of checking out a New Japan show, but there's not really anything coming up that I'm like super excited to see.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm just waiting for something big to happen.
I guess the Ring of Honor shows are pretty good.
Yeah, they seemed good. We saw a title change.
Yep. And also that 6-man tag, right? Didn't the Briscoes win back those belts?
Did they win them back? I thought they lost them. Maybe they lost them one day and won them back the next day. Who knows?
I think they did. I think there was like
there was a brief brief time where Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks were the champions.
That's right. Do you think Omega's going to be able to keep going as a sort of top heel?
I don't know. Probably. It seems like um, they're pretty hot on Kenny Omega at the moment.
And he's good. I mean, I think he could definitely pull it off.
Yeah, I'd like to see it. Um, I don't know. I think Kenny Omega is pretty good. I would like to see him somewhere else too, but you know, it's unlikely.
What about the Young Bucks? Where do they go?
Um, I don't know. Where can they go? They could. I mean, they could always go back to Ring of Honor. It's not like
Yeah, I mean, right now they're sort of Ring of Honor, PWG, New Japan. Do you ever see them in WWE?
Young Bucks.
Yeah,
Maybe. I mean, I don't. I wouldn't rule it out. If only because you know WWE apparently had some interest before.
I could see it happening. I mean, once they sign Nakamura, like I can now see everything happening.
Can see anything happening. It's just
I could see them signing Nick Gage the day he gets out of jail. Like it's just like nothing can surprise me anymore.
that would be amazing. Nick Gage.
That would be amazing. Someone on Twitter said the run up to WrestleMania should be Dean Ambrose visiting Nick Gage in jail to learn the secret of how to beat Brock Lesnar, like Luke Skywalker going to find Yoda.
That would be perfect.
That would be great. I need to know how to kill anyone. Not sure if you can film in jails, though. I don't really know what's possible.
Probably not possible.
Probably not. Probably not.
It's probably possible, just not for WWE.
Yeah, yeah, like a documentary, like a news crew or something, but not for an angle about beating Brock Lesnar up.
Too bad, really, because I would have liked to seen it.
I would have liked to have seen it too. That would have been. That's the kind of outside the box writing that we need to see more of. Get on that, Max Landis,
Uh,
who is apparently a consultant to the WWE.
no, apparently not. Apparently he said that like he was apparently a consultant, but he said they never listened to him and they're not rehiring him.
That's too bad. I mean, it's fun to hate Max Landis, but I don't know. Maybe he would have had good ideas because it's not like I could see them turning down the ideas if like every time they got up to the plate they hit a home run. But it's been a while since WWE did something that made me say, "Oh, this is great."
Yeah, that's I guess, I mean that's really true. They haven't really been they haven't been wowing me.
No, although I guess everyone was wowed by the Shane McMahon thing, so maybe we're the weirdos.
Yeah, we're overly critical, I guess.
Let's be honest, we're always the weirdos.
I guess that's true. I mean, yeah, whatever. That's true.
Well, that's about all the time we have. Oh, I did want to mention this tonight in the United States, at least it's nighttime, and it's the Nevada Republican caucuses. The votes haven't started coming in yet, but I want to point out that this podcast, a wrestling podcast, was more accurate about the South Carolina GOP results than the NBC News Wall Street Journal poll, which predicted a Ted Cruz victory.
Yeah, we actually predicted the outcomes spot on.
Yep, absolutely. I think we basically got the percentages right.
Yep. We uh we did that by being realistic.
Yeah, you want to know how we what our crystal ball is, what our secret is? We just looked at the polls.
Yeah, that that was basically it. And it's so weird. I mean, totally off the wrestling podcast thing at this point, but like it's so weird when like the people who are like supposed to be um like their job is, doing polls, like they just don't listen to it. They're just like sticking with their gut feeling that they really hate Trump, so that he's going to
Yeah,
lose.
yeah, and they're like, no, 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 it's got to be Cruz because like Cruz is doing this, and there's evangelicals, and We just looked at the polls and we're like, I bet Trump gets like 33% of the vote, wins by double digits, and that's exactly what happened.
Yep, that's exactly what happened. There was like no, wasn't even close.
So pretty much what I'm saying is, for this podcast, come for the wrestling, stay for the insightful politics analysis.
Yeah, because we're apparently, more on the ball than professional pollsters.
Yes, literally, if you had listened to us and not NBC News and the Wall Street Journal, you would have been right about this election.
Yep. So I didn't realize that the caucus was going on tonight. Does that mean the Democratic caucus is also going on in North
No,
Carolina?
they already had theirs. The Democrats vote in South Carolina on
Oh,
Saturday.
okay.
I don't know why South Carolina and Nevada break up their primaries and caucuses by party that way, but they do. And so Republicans in Nevada tonight, Democrats in South Carolina on Saturday.
Okay. So
Trump's going to win Nevada. Trump has been like in the 40s in polling. I mean, caucuses are harder to poll and harder to guess, but no one's even close to him.
I'm excited for the horrified reaction of everybody when Trump wins because chaos.
Absolutely. Chaos reigns. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. Next week, we'll be back. There may be more surprises from the WWE. Who knows what's going to happen in the crazy topsy-turvy world of professional wrestling? But if between now and the next time this is posted, you want more wrestling content from us, you're in luck because you can find us on Twitter. I am at TJ Breen.
And I am at XCornMuffinX, which is also this YouTube channel, so it's easy to find the name.
And on Tumblr, you can find us at closetofanxiety.tumblr.com and at hawkageandjoe.tumblr.com. A lot of wrestling content on the old Tumblr. Um, it's a good time to be a wrestling fan.
Indeed, it's a good time, even though wrestling is not so good.
That's right. Well, just in the most important company.
Yeah. Well, whatever.
Everywhere else is pretty good, but even TNA isn't that bad
It's true.
content wise. Like, all right, maybe I'll take that back. TNA is pretty bad.
Yeah, TNA is pretty bad, but you know, it could be worse.
No, it could, and it's been worse. It's been much worse. So by TNA standards, they've righted the ship. By everyone else's standards, they're kind of in a slump. But
But it's been like a constant slump forever. So it's not even like really a slump. It's just like standard action for
yeah, when you compare how bad they are or how bad they were during the Vince Russo era with now, I mean, it's night and day. They're still bad, but they're not like stop what you're doing and call people bad.
yeah, that's not happening anymore. Hopefully.
All right. Well, again, thank you all for listening, and we'll get you next time.
All right, see you guys next time.